What's going on, guys? It's Jake here from Chief Live Gaming. Today, a dual purpose video for you guys. So this is going to be a tutorial and an update on this building here that I'm making for my Nurgle narrative campaign. So if you missed the first video, real quick look. Nurgle overgrowth, green stuff work done here, and if you want to see that again, I'll put a link in the description to how I did that. I do a whole video covering that topic. And then just some kind of like messy, ruined area, and I made a nice like open area here to do like flocking and battle damage kind of look. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to make this whole middle area nice and rubbly and battle damaged. Bunch of crap that got blown off the building should be filling this space, right? So we want it to be convincing with our modeling. So we're going to use a few very basic supplies, and I just want to show you guys that, and then I'm going to zoom in and just give you a little bit of a look. So I guess we'll start here. So first of all, you're going to want some bigger chunks in here. You can use bits of sprue. I find it helpful to have some random, these are just random pieces of balsa wood. So you've got, you know, a bunch of different like square, rectangular shapes. And so what you can do, you can grab a piece right in here, take it, break it in half, and it looks kind of like, you know, if you were to throw that in there like that, maybe like pieces of the floor or the ceiling or whatever you want would be kind of laying around in there. So that just gives you a little bit of variety. You don't want to overdo it with these kind of things, but I find it helpful to have a few of these pieces scattered around. Could even use them as like concrete. So from there, I use two different sizes of like wood. These are basically like square toothpick kind of things, and these are just like long, narrow toothpicks. So same idea. You take one of these guys, if I can get it out, and you break it, and it looks kind of like a 2x4 would have broken off. And I find like, okay, so here's a regular toothpick, not a regular, what are these even called? I can never remember. Thing. And this is the skinny one. I just said the word and now I forgot it already. Whatever. So these are a little too big, so I like to use the smaller ones. I'm going to think the word halfway through this video and blurt it out, just so you guys know. So I throw a couple of these in so you'll break both ends, something like that, and just chuck it in there, and it looks like maybe a 2x4 or something, and I'll spread those out. And again, same kind of thing with these. You can break them up, almost look like rebar if you want, so you could break it off and have it like sticking out of the area here. Just some ideas. So throw a bunch of crap in there, and then you're going to come in with your gravel. So I have three different sizes of gravel, and this you can see like a thicker, bigger pieces. Then we move down a little bit to a medium grit, as I like to think of it. So again, you're going from the thick, I'm doing a really awesome job of keeping this in frame, a thicker grit down, and then you use the medium, and then finally we can come in with some fine grit. And as you can see, just a little bit more sandy. And you can go outside and grab sand out of your driveway or your yard, whatever you want. I find it a little more easy just to use like model train stuff from your local hobby store, because it's a little more consistent, and then it provides the same kind of look throughout all your train pieces, so you don't get some random inconsistencies. It's just a little easier for me. So obviously dirt outside is a lot cheaper than going and buying a bag of this stuff. So whatever you can find will work just fine. And everything that I use is for the adhesive, I just use Elmer's glue, or PVA as people call it. It's just white glue. And then I'll also come in with a mix of water and PVA. As you can see, this very professional labelage going on. And that's like 50-50. I don't know, I just kind of dump some in there and then put some water in. Really, there's no science to it. You could probably find like ratios online of what people use, but I just kind of go with it, wing it. And then I also put a little bit of dish soap in there. They call that, I think it's a surfactant is the word, science. And that'll basically keep it from clogging up your nozzle in here. So this is just a, whatever spray bottle. This one is really big. You could get a smaller one or whatever you want to use. So real quick, that's the materials we're going to use. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of zoom in. You guys have seen what I'll be using, and I'm going to just decorate this area up, flock it, and then that'll be it. Alright guys, so the first step in this lovely process is getting a bed of PVA or white glue on the entire surface that you want your gravel to be placed. So we're going to start out straight out of the bottle, paying particular attention to all of the areas where the ground and walls meet, soaking that PVA in there right out of the bottle. And then we're going to come in with our spray mix, our magical ratio of whatever the hell you feel like, spray it in there, spread it all around with your finger, and get a nice even coat. This is going to help you out in the long run, making sure you get that nice and even there. So now we're just going to throw some random pieces of balsa wood that I showed you guys, some popsicle sticks. I knew I'd remember it. Popsicle sticks. Break them up, throw them in there. Pay a particular attention to trying to diversify the angles of where they're scattered, so don't have all the same angle. Try to make an even coverage across the entire piece. You don't want to have it sparse areas or too thick in one area, because your eye will be drawn to that, and that's not what you want. Alright, so now we're going to flock, for lack of a better word, with our gravel. We're going to flock all this, starting with the coarse grit. And I apologize guys, these camera angles are not the greatest, but I found it difficult to find a good angle and need to do what I needed to do. So hopefully you guys can get the process regardless. So this coarse grit is going to be predominantly in the areas that are least traveled in your terrain. So if you think about it, people walking around or traveling through this, they're going to kick out the big pieces, and it's just going to be like that fine gravel in the highly traveled areas. So we're just working our way down from coarse to medium, and then to the fine grit, periodically giving a nice soak with that mixture. You can see that I just dump it on there. It's going to be just fine, guys. You don't have to worry about overusing it too much. Just don't don't sit there and spray it until your bottle's empty. You'll be okay. So you want to get everything nice and covered, and then what I like to do is come in with PVA again and pay attention to the rubble chunks. So I know my hand's in the way, but you guys will see in a second that I kind of like to, around each piece or every other piece, on the ends of it, put a nice big glob of PVA, and then I'm going to flock over that to make it look like the pieces are partially buried in the rubble or in the debris. This gives it a really nice effect, and is pretty easy to do. So you'll see that here. I just come in with the medium and fine grits on top of these clumps of PVA that I make to bury these down into the sand. Skipping ahead a little bit, as you can see, as you get up into higher levels of your terrain pieces of your ruins, you're going to want to try to feather out the effect of your rubble. So what I mean by that is make it kind of taper off, so it's not just coated entirely in gravel. So as you can see here, I did that with the glue and then came in with the spray, and I'm just going to really lightly kind of feather that effect out to make it look a little bit more realistic. Okay guys, so here we have the piece after I've placed all of the rubble and I guess flock that I'm going to use on this piece. Now it's worth noting that I placed all of my flock before I primed or painted it, and that's something that you don't have to do. I mean, as you can see, if you had this piece of terrain kind of lightly painted up and you threw this flocking down, depending on your color scheme, you could get away with it and it would probably be fine. So keep that in mind. You save yourself a little time by using the colors, the natural colors of this sand or of whatever you're using, to save yourself a few steps. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to paint it myself, dry brushing, washing, stuff like that. And I think it'll turn out better for my particular needs. So around the outside, It was kind of hard to get on the camera because I kept turning it, but I wanted it to look more, I guess, less traveled. Bigger rubble, larger chunks of the bigger grit. And then on the inside, just a mess. Again, I think having these planks and stuff kind of in there, you saw I tried to kind of make them look like they were buried a little bit. And, you know, that's various stages you can do. What I would recommend now, and what I'm going to do, is to let this dry for a while. You can set it in front of a fan, and usually like a few hours. And as you can see by maybe looking at some of these areas, it's soaked. And you don't really have to worry about that. A lot of people will tell you, like, especially with the basing, the MDF doesn't react well with water. As long as you're not like dunking it in water, you're going to be okay. Just put it in front of a fan. It'll dry out relatively quickly, and then I'll come back to you guys after that. So I'll see you guys in a second. All right, guys. So here we are. We've let the PVA basically and water mixture, that whole gloop that we had on there, dry. I let it dry for a couple hours in front of the fan, and it's all completely locked down now. So as you can see, if I drag my finger, even my fingernail, I mean, you can see everything's pretty locked down, right? That's pretty good. The only thing that's gonna come up a little bit more easily are these larger pieces of gravel, the gray ones, the big chunks. And so that's what you're gonna have to be careful for. But if you're not using something that big, if you're just doing like the small gravel, this is gonna be totally locked down. You're gonna be okay. If you're ever not satisfied, you can come back with another coating of the water and PVA mix. Just soak it, let it dry, keep doing. You could do it 20 times if you want, just to really lock that down, because as we know with wargaming terrain, it's going to see a lot of abuse. It's not like a diorama that's going to be looked at. You need this stuff to stay locked down, because the worst thing is when you get it painted up and then somebody comes along with their mini and chips off one of these pieces, and underneath it you see like gray or you know, brown or something that's like a color that just clashes. It's really obvious. Or if you've got something that chips and it's white underneath, that's probably the worst. So I like to go a little overkill with locking down my grit and my gravel. So the next thing I'm going to do, and this is part of the reason why I do it in this order, is I'm going to prime my piece of terrain before I paint it. And what I use, just grab a random can here, is this just Ultra Cover Rust-Oleum. And this is just from my local Home Depot. You could probably get it at like Lowe's or Menards or whatever you have in your area, your home improvement stores. You don't have to get this brand, obviously. Any primer will work. You can also use automotive primer, which is super, super nice. It covers really, really well, but it's also a little bit more expensive. So if you guys are looking for like a super, super, super thick, good quality primer, I would recommend automotive primer. Try that. And then I come up with a matte coat. So this is just the same brand, and they make like a varnish. And you can get matte or gloss. Gloss is going to cover better, provide a better coating. But again, you're going to get that gloss finish. So if you don't want the gloss finish, you can use matte. Again, we're painting over this, so it doesn't really matter what we use. Like I said, I want to be overkill with it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to prime everything, which will lock it down a little bit more, and then I'm going to varnish it, which will lock it down even more. And hopefully we should be totally fine at that point from any kind of chipping or removal of this gravel flock that we've placed. And when we're playing on it, we won't have to worry. So that's the plan. I'm going to just do that and come back and show it to you guys. And so I'll see you in just a minute. Okay guys, so the deed is done. We've primed the piece of terrain, and I just wanted to show you guys. So as you can see, if I kind of like drag my finger across here, let's zoom in a little on that, you can see where that starts to chip away. And like I mentioned in the previous little clip, that's really obvious, and it's really stark and stands out against, like, so say this was painted or whatever, and then you start to get that chipping, it's going to be really obvious and really annoying and stand out. So to prevent that chipping of any of your gravel flock, I would definitely recommend something like a varnish coat of matte or gloss. So if you really wanted to be overkill, you could coat it now, like right after you prime it, throw down a coat, then paint it, and then finally seal it again after you've painted it. Or you can alternatively, you know, just do a couple coats of varnish after you've painted it. Try to be careful while you're painting. That's what I'm going to do with this. I'm not going to bother with double varnishing or anything like that. And I'm just going to see how it goes. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helps you out with placing your own rubble or gravel type of flock. I don't know what else to call it. And as you can see, once this is kind of blended together and painted, it's going to look pretty nice with very little effort. A lot of dry brushing, and then we're going to come in with some like dead grass, moss, make it look all overgrown and like it's been sitting here for quite a while. We're going to paint up this Nurgle overgrowth that I did with the green stuff. Nice and bright, high contrast, orange, green, yellow, a lot of really cool colors, really make it stand out. And that should be pretty cool. So in the next video, we're going to walk through steps on painting, and then probably with the final video, I'm going to cover flock, like more traditional flocking, like the grass, static grass kind of thing. Flock tuft placement, that kind of stuff. So at least 2 more parts to this video series, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next video. Bye now. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you want to see more, please consider subscribing to my channel. I do battle reports, tactica, painting tutorials, all kinds of stuff. And if you want to get even more involved, you can check out my website, chieflivegaming.com. There's a big gallery there. You can vote on polls to interact with my battle reports and all kinds of other good stuff. So I hope to see you guys there, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye now.